Have you ever noticed something weird about yourself? Not weird like putting ketchup on pizza. I mean brain weird, like you tell yourself, tomorrow I'll start exercising. Tomorrow comes, Monday sounds better. You promised tomorrow I'll stop scrolling before bed, and somehow it's 1:47 in the morning. You're watching a video called Can Penguins Recognize Themselves in a Mirror? How did we even get here? Or maybe this one. You spend an entire Sunday saying, this week is different. You buy the fancy notebook, download the productivity app, watch 3 motivational videos, even clean your desk, because future you is finally going to become organized. And then Monday arrives. Future you quietly resigns, without even giving notice. If you've ever done that, congratulations. You're perfectly human. And honestly, that's literally me too. Hey, my name is Ponder, and I probably ponder way too much about why our brains do such unbelievably strange things. Today's question has been living rent-free inside my head. Why does your brain treat tomorrow like another person? Because, look, we all have this imaginary superhero living in the future. Future me. Future me wakes up early. Future me eats salads. Future me never procrastinates. Future me answers emails immediately. Future me has 6-pack abs, reads 12 books a year, keeps their room spotless, and somehow remembers everyone's birthday. Meanwhile, today's me just spent 15 minutes deciding whether making coffee counts as being productive. Duh! Here's the thing. Most people think procrastination happens because they're lazy. I don't buy that. Because lazy people don't spend hours planning to work. Lazy people don't feel guilty for not starting. Lazy people don't open 15 tabs about productivity. Most people who procrastinate actually care. Sometimes they care too much. So maybe laziness isn't the real problem. Maybe our brain is playing a much cleverer trick on us. This is you today, and this is you tomorrow. Simple enough, right? Except your brain doesn't always see them as the same person. It treats tomorrow. You almost like a stranger, almost like someone else will deal with today's problems. It's as if your brain says, don't worry, tomorrow's guy seems responsible. Let's give him everything. Workout? Tomorrow. Taxes? Tomorrow. Studying? Tomorrow. That awkward phone call? Definitely tomorrow. Cleaning the room? Future me loves cleaning, apparently. Poor future me. He never agreed to any of this. Now, you might be thinking, Ponder, come on. I know tomorrow me is still me. Of course you do. Consciously. But your brain doesn't always make decisions consciously. It relies on shortcuts, tiny mental hacks that help you survive, but sometimes completely sabotage your goals. Psychologists call many of these shortcuts cognitive biases, automatic patterns of thinking that help us make quick decisions, but can also lead us astray. And one of the biggest is our tendency to value comfort now more than rewards later. That's why eating one more cookie feels incredibly important, while avoiding heart disease 30 years from now somehow feels optional. Crazy, but true. Here's something fascinating. Behavioral scientists have found that people often make very different choices when a reward is immediate versus delayed. Offer someone a smaller reward today or a larger reward weeks from now, and many people choose the immediate option, even when they know waiting would be better. Our brains naturally place extra value on what's happening right now. Psychologists call this present bias. It's one of the reasons saving money, exercising, studying, or building habits can feel so much harder than they logically should. It's not because your brain is broken. It's because your brain evolved to prioritize the present. Thousands of years ago, food, safety, and survival mattered today, not 6 months from now. The problem is, your ancient brain is trying to solve modern problems with ancient software. Think about it like this. Imagine your roommate keeps borrowing your car, uses all the fuel, leaves the coffee cups inside, and never cleans anything. Then every evening they say, don't worry, tomorrow's roommate will handle it. Tomorrow arrives. Same roommate, same mess, same excuses. That's exactly what your brain keeps doing to future you. It borrows time, energy, and discipline from someone who doesn't exist yet. And here's what most people don't realize. Every single promise you make to tomorrow is secretly shaping the person you become. Not tomorrow, today. Because every time you delay something important, your brain quietly learns a lesson. Apparently, we don't really mean what we say. The scary part? Your brain is always learning, even when you're doing nothing. This is where it gets really interesting. Researchers studying something called future self-continuity have found that some people feel a stronger psychological connection to their future selves than others. People who vividly imagine and identify with who they'll become often make decisions that better protect that future, saving more money, planning ahead, and sticking to long-term goals. In other words, the more your future self feels like you, the less likely you are to keep dumping today's responsibilities on them. And that raises an even bigger question. If your brain naturally treats tomorrow you like someone else, can you teach it to think differently? Can you stop seeing your future self as a stranger and start treating them like your closest teammate? Because if the answer is yes, it could completely change the way you build habits, beat procrastination, and make decisions for the rest of your life. And trust me, that's exactly where we're going next. So grab your notebook, because we're about to go beyond every answer. So, why does this happen? Why does your brain keep assigning impossible amounts of work to future you, like there's some kind of unpaid intern? Here's the thing. Your brain isn't trying to ruin your life. It's trying to protect you. Yeah, I know, some protection. But hear me out. Imagine you're walking through a forest thousands of years ago. Suddenly you hear something rustling in the bushes. Your brain has two choices. Option 1, let's carefully analyze whether that's a tiger or just the wind. Option 2, run. Guess which ancestors survived long enough to pass on their genes? Exactly. Your brain evolved to prioritize immediate survival, not long-term planning. Back then, there were no retirement accounts, no gym memberships, no online courses, no "I'll start eating healthy next month." If food was in front of you, you ate it. If danger appeared, you escaped. Your brain became incredibly good at asking one question: what helps me right now? And honestly, it still asks that question today. Look, that's why your brain says, eat the donut, instead of protect your cholesterol in 2048. It says, watch one more episode, instead of wake up refreshed tomorrow. Because tomorrow is blurry, right now is crystal clear. Now here's what most people don't realize. Your brain doesn't actually hate success. It hates uncertainty. Think about it. Scrolling social media? Your brain knows exactly what it's getting. Quick entertainment, tiny dopamine hits, almost zero effort. Going to the gym? Could be hard, could be embarrassing, could be painful. Starting a business? Risky. Learning a new skill? Confusing. Talking to someone you like? Terrifying. Notice the pattern? Every meaningful improvement comes wrapped in uncertainty. And your brain? It would rather choose familiar discomfort than unfamiliar growth. Duh. Humans are weird. Imagine your comfort zone is a cave. It's warm, safe, predictable. Outside the cave, there might be treasure, there might be opportunities, there might even be your dream life. But your brain looks outside and says, could also be a bear. So, back into the cave you go. That's why growth feels uncomfortable. Not because you're doing something wrong, but because your brain mistakes new for dangerous. Now, you might be thinking, okay, Ponder, that explains eating junk food. But what about procrastination? Why do I delay things I actually want to do? Excellent question. Because this is where it gets really interesting. When you think about writing a report, your brain doesn't experience the satisfaction of finishing it. It experiences the discomfort of starting it, the stress, the uncertainty, the effort. So it looks around for an escape hatch. Oh, look, the kitchen needs cleaning. Oh, wow, I should organize my desktop. Maybe I should research the best notebook for productivity. Congratulations, you've become incredibly productive at avoiding the one thing that actually matters. Sound familiar? Yeah, mine too. Researchers studying procrastination have found that it isn't simply poor time management, it's often tied to emotion management. When a task feels stressful, boring, intimidating, or likely to expose us to failure, our brains look for ways to escape those uncomfortable feelings. That's why procrastination can provide a brief sense of relief. The task doesn't disappear, but the uncomfortable emotion does, at least for a little while. The catch? That relief is temporary. Later, the task is still there. Only now it comes with guilt. So tomorrow's version of you has an even heavier emotional backpack to carry. Imagine your future self is climbing a mountain. Every time you procrastinate, you quietly toss another rock into their backpack. Future me will handle it. Another rock. I'll do it after lunch. Another rock. I work better under pressure. Another rock. Poor future you. By the time they start climbing, they're carrying a backpack full of promises made by yesterday you. No wonder it feels so hard. Here's something fascinating. Studies have shown that when people are encouraged to vividly imagine their future selves, what they look like, how they live, and what they care about, they often make more patient, long-term decisions. Why? because that future person stops feeling like a stranger. They begin to feel like family, and we naturally take better care of people we care about. Think about it. If your best friend asked you to hold on to $100 for them, would you spend it? Probably not. But somehow, we have no problem stealing time from ourselves. Isn't that strange? Let's talk about the biggest myth in self-improvement. One day I'll feel motivated. Really? Have you ever noticed motivation has terrible timing? You suddenly feel motivated at 11:30 p.m. right before bed. You design an entire new life. Tomorrow, you'll wake up at 5. Meditate, exercise, read, journal, drink green juice, learn Spanish, start investing, probably invent a new app. You sleep feeling unstoppable. Morning comes. Alarm rings. Your brain opens one eye and says, "Absolutely not." What changed? You didn't become lazy overnight. The emotion changed. Last night, the effort was imaginary. This morning, the effort became real. That's the difference. Motivation loves imagination. Discipline survives reality. And here's the biggest glitch of all. Your brain keeps confusing making a decision with making progress. Your brain loves preparation because preparation feels productive. But preparation isn't transformation. Action is. And that's the uncomfortable truth. Sometimes we're not addicted to improvement. We're addicted to feeling like we're improving. There's a huge difference. So, if your brain naturally prioritizes comfort, avoids uncertainty, protects you from uncomfortable emotions, and treats future you like a stranger, how do you beat a system that has been evolving for thousands of years? I'm going to show you 3 psychological techniques that completely change the relationship between present you and future you. And trust me, one of them is so simple. You'll wonder why nobody taught you this in school. Look, by now, we've established something important. The problem isn't that future you doesn't exist. The problem is, your brain doesn't treat future you like someone it truly cares about. And if that's the problem, then maybe the solution isn't more motivation. Maybe it's changing the relationship you have with your future self. So, let's fix the glitch. Technique number 1. Make future you feel real. Here's what most people don't realize. Your future self isn't some magical version of you. They're simply today's choices repeated. Imagine getting a letter in the mail. No return address. You open it. It's from you, 10 years older. The letter says, "Hey, remember that workout you skipped? My knees remember it too. Remember the money you didn't save? I'm dealing with that now. Remember when you finally started reading instead of scrolling? Thank you." That one changed everything. Kind of powerful, isn't it? Researchers studying future self-thinking have found that when people vividly picture who they'll become, they're often more willing to make decisions that benefit that future person. So here's your challenge. Tonight, spend 5 minutes imagining yourself 5 years from now. Not your dream version, your realistic version. Where do they live? How do they speak? How do they wake up? What habits do they thank you for? Because the clearer that person becomes, the harder it is to keep dumping your problems onto them. Technique number 2. Stop trusting motivation. Now, this one might annoy some people. Good, because someone has to say it. Motivation is amazing for about 15 minutes. Then it disappears like your phone battery when you actually need it. Look, motivation starts the engine. Systems keep the car moving. Successful people don't wake up every morning overflowing with motivation. They simply remove the need to make the same decision over and over again. Instead of asking, "Do I feel like exercising?" they ask, "What time do I exercise?" Instead of, "Should I study today?" It's, "I study at 7. Notice the difference? One depends on emotion. The other depends on identity. Technique number 3. Be kind to tomorrow. Starting today. This is my favorite one. Every decision you make, ask yourself one question. Would I do this to someone I genuinely care about? Would you leave your best friend with a sink full of dishes? Probably not. Would you hand them an impossible workload tomorrow because you couldn't be bothered today? Probably not. So, why do it to yourself? Your future self deserves the same kindness you'd give someone else. Sometimes, growth isn't about doing something extraordinary. Sometimes it's simply refusing to make tomorrow harder than it has to be. One workout, one page, one healthy meal, one uncomfortable conversation, 1 hour of focused work. Tiny choices, tiny rocks removed, tiny promises kept. And slowly, the person you wanted to become stops living in tomorrow and starts appearing today. The story that changed my perspective. Let me tell you something. Imagine 2 people. Both decide they'll learn a new language. The first person waits until they feel inspired. The second studies just 10 minutes every day. Nothing impressive. Nothing dramatic. A year later, the first person still has the app installed. The second is having conversations. What was the difference? Talent? No. Intelligence? No. Perfect discipline? Not even close. The difference was simple. One person kept making promises to tomorrow. The other made tiny promises and actually kept them. That's it. Success is rarely built in giant heroic moments. It's built in ordinary Tuesdays, ordinary Wednesdays, ordinary decisions nobody applauds. Here's the biggest thing I hope you remember from today. Every time you say, "I'll do it tomorrow," pause. Ask yourself, am I making tomorrow easier or harder? Because tomorrow isn't another person. It's you, still carrying the same dreams, still carrying the same fears, still hoping today's version finally helps. Imagine if every version of you, yesterday you, today you, tomorrow you, work together instead of passing responsibility around like an office email nobody wants to answer. Your life would change, not overnight, but inevitably. Look, none of us are perfect. I still procrastinate. I still convince myself that organizing my desk is somehow more important than doing the actual work. Our brains are wonderfully intelligent and hilariously flawed. But here's the beautiful part. The moment you understand the glitch, you stop blaming yourself, and you start designing around it. That's what personal growth really is. Not becoming a different person. Becoming someone who understands themselves well enough to work with their brain instead of constantly fighting against it. So, the next time you catch yourself saying, "I'll do it tomorrow," remember this. Tomorrow isn't waiting to save you. Tomorrow is quietly hoping that you'll save it. If you're someone who keeps believing that future me will magically become a better person, and today's video made you see that differently, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if it helped you out. Because here on Beyond Every Answer, we're not just collecting answers. We're learning how to ask better questions. I'm Ponder, and I probably think way too much about why our wonderfully weird brains do the things they do, but maybe that's exactly what curiosity is for. Until next time, stay curious. Keep growing. And remember, every answer leads to another question. I'll see you beyond every answer.